Welcome to the Entre Nos. Our guest today has a magnetic personality that shines in his consulting and training work in Toronto, Canada. And while those who've attended the HSA retreats experience his energy firsthand, he is Venki Raman. Thank you very much, Venki, for joining us today. As I do with every guest, I would love for you to start by introducing yourself to everyone.
Thank you so much, Laura. This is a pleasure and an honor to be in this forum here and talk to you and hopefully talk to all our colleagues and fellow journeyers, as Tal calls us all. It is a real true honor for me to be here with you today. In terms of introduction, I'm a father, happily married guy. I managed my college sweetheart, and we have two kids. My son just got married, and my daughter has got engaged, and she's going to get married next year in May. So
Oh,
I'm a happy guy. There's
yeah,
a
of
lot
course.
going on in my life, but certainly a happy guy. In terms of professionalism, I've been a finance professional all my life. I've done various designations, too many to name, in different parts of the country, predominantly in India and in Canada, a little bit in Australia as well. But yeah, so overall, my career has been in banking. 40 years I spent in banking in various roles, starting from the entry level right up to a VP for many, many years, and then becoming a boarded executive of the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in Canada, and leading very large teams. I've always led very, very large teams, big mandates, being in sales, business acquisition. That is what I've always specialized in. My last job in the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce was to lead the mobile advice team across the country, coast to coast, from Atlantic to Pacific in Canada. And I had the responsibility to bring in $20 billion with a B, $20 billion of annual sales to the bank. And of course, it affected the stock price, so did well. And I thought that was good enough for me. I turned 60 at that time, and I said, I got to do something really meaningful with my life. I was always a capitalist, but a conscious capitalist, a compassionate capitalist. Not so much conscious. I know that's Raj Sisoda's term, but mine is. I've always been known as a compassionate capitalist. So I decided to say, okay, you know what? Having done 2/3 of my life, I said the remaining 1/3 of my life, I want to spend all this energy I have, and everybody has told me about my energy. I said, I want
Yeah.
to do it. I want to do it for the greater good of mankind or womankind. That's really what I really wanted to do. And my wife and my kids were very supportive. My parents were very supportive. So that's when I got into this journey. I became a coach and now a happiness trainer. And I've been sharing it with a lot of finance professionals. So
Wow.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Venki. Well, we're going to start with the questions. And the first one, how did your 25-year career at CIBC prepare you for coaching in positive psychology? And what key difference do you find in your new role after completing the HSA certification?
Fantastic question, my friend. You know, over the in the 25 years that I spent with CIBC, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, being in leadership roles, always used. I was known as I said, a compassionate capitalist simply because I cared for my people first. I always had that tendency to look after my people. My mantra was, when you look after your people really well and
Mm,
remove all the pain points that they are experiencing. I mean, most people are good people, right? Everybody wants to come to succeed. But then we find disgruntled people because of, I have always believed that it is because of suboptimal communication, right? So my thing was always to optimize the communication, figure out what really were the pain points, remove those pain points so that they were able to soar. And invariably in my career, what I found was I was always known as a very motivating guy, very caring guy. I knew everybody's family, everybody's thing. So even a teller in the bank, although I had so many branches and people that worked with me, 1,500 people, 2,000 people, but I would know their family, I would know what was going on in their lives. So we were all connected, very connected. I spent a lot of time with the front line. That is what, I was practicing, but I didn't know. I was not conscious of that. I was not
Yeah.
aware of that. People always told me you're very motivational and all that, but I wasn't conscious of that. So I went on doing my work. I went on building energy, we're doing all that. So it prepared me because I was considered a very good coach because performance was a given. Wherever I went, the bank, I was able to turn around business units. I was able to take even tough decisions with a lot of compassion. We were able to make those and move the business forward. We were able to attract great talent. We were able to nurture them. All of that. So yeah, I was practicing without awareness. But
Hmm.
I hopefully, or everybody, all my friends, my leaders who reported to me, my staff, they would always say, "You're a very good person, Maggie. You're a very good person." I thought, okay, how else can you be? You just have to be a good person, and you carry on. Then when I made this decision, when I learned that, oh, energy, I was talking about, so I wanted to deep dive into energy. That is when I left. I retired early. At 60, I retired. In Canada, you can continue in my bank. I was, I could have continued for a long time, but I said I want to do something meaningful. And my CEO, he blessed me and he said, yeah, okay, this is a dumb decision, but I'll support
But
you
go
if that's
ahead.
what you want. I can't, in his words, he said, I can't stop you from making a dumb decision, Venki. You know, I said, no, this is something I've always wanted to do. And I also I told him I wanted to spend some time with my parents. By God's grace, they're still living in India. So I wanted to make more frequent trips to visit them and spend quality time with the loved ones and all my friends and everybody. Everybody is getting older, so I said, "Hey, I can use this time well." So they supported me and they gave me a coaching contract. So I coached people there and several teams in the thing. Then when I educated then I met Tal. I got myself ICF certified, so I'm a PCC. I'm a professional certified coach. All that. I went to IPEC, which is the energy leadership process that I learned from IPEC, Institute
Mhm.
of Professional Excellence in Coaching. Dr. Bruce Schneider, amazing, human beings over there, and great piece of work. I learned that, and they were affiliated with Tall, and I learned about Tall, and I was enchanted with Tall. And I immediately enrolled in the HSA, and I was hooked. That's when I will tell you my true education came from Tall, and I learned energy leadership from Dr. Bruce Schneider's work, and I'm grateful to him. But my gratitude is all to Tal for spending so much time and putting this course HSA together. You asked me what difference did it make,
Mhm.
and yeah, I know we are going to talk about evidence-based coaching and all that, but that's where everything clicked for me. Oh my God, things all became crystal clear. Oh my God, this is what I've been doing. Oh my God,
Yeah.
this is a process. I haven't been just going around and doing things. I've been following a process and I've been following the principles of positive psychology without realizing I've been doing it.
Mhm.
But I made several mistakes along the way, and I became aware of those mistakes as well. So it allowed me to, first of all, be aware of my energy and not allowing me to waste my energy. It allowed me to refine myself to an extent that my daughter, who was 20 at that time, she said to me, she's 25 now, 21, 2021 at that time, now she's 25. She said to me, Dad, you experienced a lot of growth. Because,
That's amazing.
yeah, so that's where I realized that, aha. And then I was able to use that. And of course, I had long chats with all whenever I could. I asked him a lot of questions in the
Yeah.
thing, and I learned a lot. Put that as a package together. And for me, then I started using energy leadership with Spire with all my clients. Now, what is the difference? Now, the difference between that coaching and this coaching, to answer your second question, is that there, yeah, I was a coach because I was a leader, but I always had an agenda. It was my agenda.
Hmm.
I had to deliver profits for the bank. I had to deliver results, whether it's Wall Street or Bay Street. They
Hmm.
demanded our performance. We had to do that. Here, it's not that. I have no agenda. It's my client's agenda.
Okay.
So it's completely upside down, the other way. The
Hmm.
client's agenda. And then I follow the energy of the client and I coach them. And in the meanwhile, I add value by providing them evidence, asking good questions so that they can discover for themselves what is right for them.
Perfect. Perfect. And you know when you say that you ask a lot of questions to Tal, I remember that because I've been with you in the happy hours. And I remember meeting you there and you were so excited and you were asking questions and I love it and I say, who is this? I want to meet him.
Okay,
Yeah,
gracias. It's a pleasure to meet
I
you.
remember that. I remember that. Um, Venki, what were some of your biggest takeaway from leading national teams with CIBC?
Ah, brilliant question. The biggest takeaways for me was that people are good people. Okay. There is a flame in every single human being. Some people's flame are already lit and they are glowing already. And they want to glow even brighter
Mhm.
so that they seek the knowledge and they grow. It's like our colleagues here, all of us here in the HSA family. Some people have that flame is a little dull because of the experiences they're undergoing.
Mhm.
And some people are even they're saying a little duller because of again experiences that they are going through. And although we can change all the things, sometimes as Tal says, some experiences are given to us, but it's not about being in the best place but making the best of a place,
Mhm.
as Tal puts it. So those are all things that are the same. One of the things that I came to the conclusion while I was leading large teams in the 25 years that I was there in CIBC was that if we can get people to be happy, and if we can get people to engage,
Mhm.
then we can connect that to what the organization wants to engage. If we tell them that you have to engage, that feels like pressure for people.
Mhm.
And this is for every child. When the parent tells them, you have to
Yeah.
do this, or a teacher tells them, you must do it, the immediate natural inclination is to rebel.
Mhm.
And if that is true for a child, then for an adult, it is a lot truer because everybody can rationalize and they can come to their own conclusion. So the way I looked at it, the takeaway was, oh my God, these are all great people. we need to understand them. And if somebody is understood, then they're willing to understand you, right?
Yeah.
So that goes to Dr. Stephen Covey's thing about habit, which is seek first to understand, then be understood. Okay. So that's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
So in my thing, that was my first introduction foray into the field of psychology when I became a trainer, licensed trainer of 7 habits program. I became a facilitator for the 7 habits program. So the takeaway was there is a good person, there is a good leader. That is number one. Number two, there is a good banker because I come from banking and brokerage, or there's a good financial planner, and there is a good client with legitimate dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, many people are not able to connect with each other. There's a connection problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
bad internet connection. When the internet connection is strong, you can download a lot of data. When you have a big bandwidth, you can download a lot of data without any interruptions. But when the line is bad, no matter how good the content is, it cannot be delivered. That's
Mm-hmm.
my biggest takeaway. So, my biggest takeaway and the way I position it with organizations is this is all about optimality. What do I mean by that? You have to be optimal yourself. So, which means now I'm talking to you, I'm in a state of optimality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not distracted, my phone is away, everything is clear. I have
Mm-hmm.
no clutter on my desk. So therefore, and my thing is now single focus, right? Single tasking versus multitasking as Tulsi. All these principles make sense to me because this is the evidence-based coaching that we talk about, right? I can
Mm-hmm.
give you a research paper on every piece that I'm talking about. And I say that to the clients. Our people have that access, but clients don't have access. So the biggest takeaway is I have to be optimal first. If I'm in a good state of mind, then I can give that energy to others. So if you're a salesperson, you give that energy to the client. The client, I know you use the word magnetic, and that is what I use to challenge my team. Show me you're magnetic, is what I would say. If you're not magnetic, no point. You can't succeed in sales.
Mm-hmm. Of
Okay.
course.
You can't succeed as a human being. You got to attract your spouse even. Even though you're married for, like in my case, I'm married for 31 years, but I still have to be magnetic with my wife. Otherwise, she's not going to be, the
It,
relationship is going to be demagnetized. We're going to drift.
yeah.
So magnetism is important and energy allows us to magnetize that. So optimality, optimize yourself, self-love, self-trust is important, but we have to teach that. Nobody is teaching that to people. Therefore, people are suboptimal. Most people are suboptimal, and the leader is suboptimal, and therefore there is no connection. Therefore, people are leaving the organization. People are not buying into the purpose of the organization. People are not buying into the mandate of the organization. Therefore, people are leaving. That is why organizations experience high turnover. That was so for me, the whole thing was search was about how do you become optimal yourself, and then how do you transmit that optimality and make others optimal. That's the leader's thing or the salesperson thing. So I do 2 types of coaching. I coach leadership teams and individual leaders and senior executives. I also coach sales teams, and I have a program for sales teams. I call it friction-free fluidity. That's what I
Mm.
call that.
Okay.
So my biggest takeaway in terms of if I don't want to go into other peripheral things, but the key thing is that it's people. It's all about people, and you can sell anything. You can produce great results. You can have a fantastic life.
Exactly. And what inspired your mission to promote well-being and happiness through the HSA framework? And how does its evidence-based approach influence your coaching philosophy, especially for high stress professionals?
Yeah, there's so much in that question. This is a good tall question. Actually, tall will answer it. I'm still a
We should
student.
ask that to Taldo.
Yeah, I'm still a student. It's a very beautiful question. I love the way you framed the question. Let me just give you my humble experience, okay? But Tal is the master, and he'll
Yeah.
in his own beautiful way. But here is what it is, okay? The Spire element. Spire gives us a model, okay? It gives us a clear cut model to work with. Yeah, Tal himself will say there are other models, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But Spire is a beautiful model. The way
Yeah.
I look at it is you take that and you run with it, and you run with it. And there is so much of depth in each element of Spire. The way I position it is it's your toolbox. If you're a mechanic, you want to fix something, you want to fix a door, let's say the lock is broken, what are you going to do? And you want to do it yourself, you're at home, the door is broken, what are you going to do? You're going to take the toolbox. No, you're not going to go with only one spanner. Okay. You're going to go with a spanner, you'll need a screwdriver, you'll need a plier, you'll need some small little nuts, you'll need a bigger nut, you need a few things. Sometimes you'll try, it'll work, something will work, something won't work, it'll be a star spanner, a regular screwdriver, whatever. Similarly, Spire is a toolbox, the way I look at it. You have several tools in the toolbox. Inspire. You can use any tool that is appropriate in that. Right? So for me, Spire is like a toolbox that I can do. But Spire is also an aspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I can aspire to be spiritually excellent so that spiritual well being can be experienced. I can aspire to be physically in well being so that I start eating good food. I make good choices. So Spire can be used both ways. It can be a toolbox to address, to leverage in order to come out of a dip,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be used also as an aspirational thing to achieve something. How do I use it? For me, every element of Spire has got lots of, that is what is the beauty with Tall. I talked about distraction. Adrian Ward, Tall has got the thing about the thing. There is a paper on distraction, on the mere sight of a cell phone, brings down your IQ, all that. Tall studies, which we have unlimited access. I go periodically and I go and pull something that, even Maria Montessori quoted, which Tall would have addressed in his studies. So I'll take that and I'll write that down and I'll take it and I look brilliant in front of my clients. My clients go, oh my God, Venki, how did you learn about Maria Montessori, man? In fact, a couple of people asked me. And then I learned they went to Montessori school. So now we got more connection, right?
Okay, yeah. My daughter went to Montessori school.
So there you go. So to your question about, yeah, remember, the financial services business, like many businesses, most businesses, financial services business, it's all about Wall Street. Okay, it's all about base rates, the stock market, and
Yeah.
investment planners and mortgage advisors. Everybody is a calculator. They've got calculators in their brain. They can zip. Everything is. Does it make money sense or not? Okay, otherwise they're not going to spend time with you, right? That is how I was when I was in my 40 years. That is how I was. Okay, if what you're doing is going to give me revenue or it's going to reduce costs, I'm willing to talk to you. Otherwise, I'm busy. I got lots of right. That is how
Funny.
that's how blunt my colleagues are, right? And that's I don't blame them because I need my CIBC shares to do well. So I'm always saying, hey, I want you to do well, buddy. Because my stock price is I'm still an investor in the bank, right? So bottom line is, how does this help them? They are very intelligent people. That's the bottom line. They also have programs in the bank. We have lots of programs in the bank where you can go, you can research all that. Everybody has ChatGPT, Gemini, that, this, etc. Okay. So today information is available everywhere. But the bottom line is very simple. If I give them evidence and they see me as a guy who is not just saying something, but he is able to go deep with it and
Mhm.
prove that. For example, I proved that presence of a cell phone is distracting. And
Mhm.
I took it, many people challenged me in the bank. And then when I sent them the study papers, and then they were able to see the impact on the body, they were all able to, then I started asking them to do me search,
Mhm.
make them talk about their experience when they were distracted, also connecting it to other things like, in Canada, for example, if you are caught with a cell phone, you get a $600 fine and a 3 demerit point. And if you do that twice, then your license is impounded for a
Mhm.
while.
Yeah.
So why is it that there is so much for that, but you're allowed to have a coffee and drink and drive? So you are only in one hand, but you're not allowed to have a cell phone. So these are all research. My clients are intelligent people, rational people. So when they see intelligent and evidence-based work, they immediately latch on to what we are saying.
Mm.
When we show them two or three of these, they say, okay, the rest must be true. Let's invite Venki because he's going to give us facts. He's not going to come and just motivate us, right? So that's the part where the Spire, the evidence based thing, and you talked about highly stressed executives. Yes,
Yeah.
people are all stressed, but it is stressed. Why? Because they have lower capacity.
Mhm.
And that is my value proposition. When you work with me, I increase your capacity, I increase your denominator. The numerator we cannot control, which is the stress.
Mhm.
The stress is going to be there. Wall Street is going to ask you for more and more and more every day. Don't make a mistake. As a bank, you need to make more revenue every year. Your
Mhm.
targets are only going to go up every year. Okay, whether even as an Ayurvedic consultant yourself,
Yeah.
you want to do better every year, right?
Exactly.
My client, I would I would coach you to do better every year. That's what would be happening. So if that is the case, how can you be stress free and or how can you be happy and do better?
Mhm.
You increase your capacity. You increase the denominator. It's like going to the gym. You use the power of neuroplasticity, you use the power of practice, and you use the power of permission to be human. You fail a few times, you
Yeah.
learn, grow, and you build a bigger better muscle, and you keep growing your muscle. Now you can lift more weights without any problem. The stress is less. You're enjoying the gym now instead of being fatigued at the gym, right? But
Exactly.
again, you can have your moments. So with professionals, what I clearly say is when you have more energy, you have more capacity. The way to get more capacity is through Spire. With Spire, we will work with you, giving you evidence-based tools, arm you that to an extent that for you to lift the same stress that you have today, you will be enjoying it. How would you like that?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Then let's start. Okay, they try it, they work with me, and they say, oh my God, are you serious, Vicky? This is really good. Okay, then let's work on the next level, next level. That's what it is. So, highly stressed individual, when I say go out for a run, I have, I'll give you one example. I had a very senior executive of a company, my client, and she will actually give me a testimonial to that effect. She is a grandma. She was sitting there. And she was kind of, keeping her arms like this, not really buying into my stuff. And this was the CEO and just the senior executives on the table. She didn't really buy into a lot of things until I went to Nest. I talked about Nest in the physical dimension:
Mm.
nutrition, exercise, sleep, and touch. And then on touch, she said, What do you mean by touch? And then I told her about the power of hugs, power of
Oh,
physical
yeah. Yeah.
power of physical contact. I talked to her about dopamine effect. I sent her a paper on that. And I said, try it. She said, oh, And towards the end, she says to me, just as we were finishing, and then I was just doing a thing, hey, any questions, any comments? She says to me, yeah, my grandkids, they go to the other grandma, but they don't really come to me much. I'm wondering because I kind of I'm busy and all that, but I'm going to try your touch, man.
Okay.
I had a follow up meeting a couple of months later, and when I went in, I said, "Hey, so how's it working? How's the session? How did it go? What resonated for you guys? Or how's it working?" She was the first to put up a hand, and she said, "Venki, I'm completely bought in to your program.
I'm touching now, everybody.
I'm hugging my grandkids, and my
Hugging
grandkids
everybody.
can't get enough of me." These are her words. They come running to me, and they can't get enough of me, and now they want to hang out with me.
Mm.
So that's pretty much it. So basically, it doesn't matter. High stress professionals put on a wall, they put on a front, but they're all human beings like all of us. I was one of those guys, but here you go. We are breaking down the barriers with a lot of people, right? Getting through.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. And how do you define success in your work with clients? And what signs do you look for to know that they are truly thriving? Like, for example, this lady, it's one of your example.
I have many like that.
Mm.
And the short answer to that is I see the effect on Spire and the entire Spire dimension. They spiritually, they feel like there is some meaning, there's some purpose. They feel physically they're telling me they're more active, they're going for a walk,
Mhm.
they're making incremental improvements like MVI, minimal viable interventions. So I always tell them small, inch by inch, it's a cinch. That's what I always say. Okay, so we see that evidence of that they're making better choices in eating. I have a number of clients who've said that to me. Then in the intellectual dimension, I see people engaging in art, going to the theater, going into music, going for nature walks. I talk about the wisdom of the trees. I've got a former executive, an executive who pretty much after 6 months after I left, she left, and she was the head of she was the VP for marketing. And the thing, and her and I, we worked on several projects together. She went and she became a nature coach, and she has written a book and all that. And now the two of us are talking, and we talk about the wisdom of the trees and putting our foreheads on the tree and getting the wisdom and meditating, all this stuff. My guys were they're saying, no, Venki, we can't even believe you're doing all this stuff. Because they've only heard me driving business. So that
Oh.
dimension, that intellectual dimension, then relational, they come and talk to me about how, their family is talking good of them. I have a VP who wrote a beautiful note to me just 2 weeks back. She sent me a note saying how one of her employees reached out to her and said, my family is eternally grateful to you for changing our lives, for listening to me, and for being compassionate.
Oh, that's so nice.
And that is what that VP sent to me. And she said, little does she know that you're my coach and I benefited from your work. And I said, I always say, little, it's not me, it's not tall. And I learned so much from my colleagues and my thing. So we're all paying it forward. That's what it is. So that dimension. And then the last but not the least, the emotional dimension. When I hear them say, oh, I'm sorry. And I always correct my clients and I ask them, What are you sorry about? We're all human beings. We can all make mistakes. And then when they hear that, and then they say, then I joke around with them. Many of them, I tell them, okay, so if you make mistakes, you will get paid more. They say, what? Are you crazy? I said, yeah, I'm crazy, but I'll tell you how. You want to know how?
I'm a
I'll
good
prove it to you.
crazy.
I'll prove it to you in my own crazy way. I'll prove it to you. I said, and I do this in public meetings. And
Mm,
then they'll say, why? How is it possible? Yeah. So when you learn, when you make a mistake, how do you feel? Bad. And you feel like, are you swelling with pride? No. What do you feel? What happens? You feel bad. And what do you want to do? I don't want to repeat it. Okay. So what do? You learn. Okay.
yeah,
When you learn, what happens to you? You grow. When you grow, what happens to you? What is that called? That's called experience. And when you make a bunch of mistakes, what happens? You get a bunch of experience. And
exactly.
in order to be successful, what do you need? You need experience.
Well, that takes me to the next question, and it is, what role do you think self compassion and resilience play in reducing stress and fostering trust, especially in leadership?
Amazing question. I kind of answered this a little bit in my earlier piece.
Mhm.
It's all about self optimality. So, self trust. By learning from in HSA, by learning positive psychology, by learning all these evidence-based tools, by listening to the lectures, by understanding all the elements, and I would highly recommend the retreats as well. I'm putting a plug on the retreats, but spending that money and coming there and hanging out with all of us, you get that immersion. It's full immersion when you do that. What that does for you is allows you to experience that glow inside it. Once you experience that, you can give to others. I always ask this question, and in banking we can't ask this because they'll say you can take a loan, but in real life, how can you give what you don't have?
Mhm.
How can you teach happiness if you're not happy yourself? How can
Exactly.
you? So the most important thing in this question is, it's all about self. People think self love means I got to go to the sauna and sit down, or I got to do a pedicure or a manicure and all that. That is what Tal calls pleasure versus happiness.
Mhm.
Going to a sauna and sitting can be a pleasurable activity, but it can be happiness if it has got a purpose to it, and it is done in reasonable quantities. So the whole point here is you want to be in love with your own self. Sub optimality in as an Ayurvedic doctor, you're a practitioner. You want to be in a good state of being.
Of course, yeah,
And then you can transmit that glow to others.
exactly.
Communication is like that. That is why that self-compassion and optimality is very important. Did I answer the whole question, or is there another part to that question?
Oh, you answer that question. You answer. And what practices or habits do you recommend for professionals to enhance trust and reduce stress? And could you also share some practical tips from your upcoming book? Because I know about that you will call it Trust Energy, right? That's your
Yeah,
upcoming book.
yeah. That's the title as of today. We
Okay.
don't know. It's still work in progress.
Of course.
Yeah. Let me answer this question, because this is something I'm very passionate about. When you are able to practical tips are anything to do from Spire. You've got your toolbox. Pick any tool that appeals to you at that time. For
Mm.
example, if I'm in the plane, I can't go for a run. So the physical dimension of running is not available to me. However, the physical dimension or the spiritual dimension of mind body integration is available to me. So I can
Mhm.
do a little closing my eyes, doing a little deep breathing, watching my breath, and I can do some relaxation techniques. I can do some visualization techniques, all that. And I can also think about, for example, next week I'm in Calgary. I've been invited to do a commencement speech in a college. So when I'm on that plane, I'm not going to reach for a drink, or I'm not going to do that. What I would do is I would think about the purpose of why I'm going there. So when you're
Mhm.
doing that, you're doing so. Practical tips are one of anything, and you can say also say, "Hey, why am I?" If you are feeling butterflies in the stomach, I would always say, "Oh my God, why am I focusing on myself? That is selfish. That I'm feeling this thing." This is one of the techniques. I'm sure there are many techniques, but the way I look at it is, who am I? Who am I focused on now? I'm focusing on me. What if I make a mistake? What if I do this? What is that called?
Exactly.
That is selfish.
Mhm.
What am I here for? I'm here to share what I know with these students that are going to be listening to me. What's my goal? My goal is to kindle their spirit and uplift them. So if I focus on that and visualize me speaking well, visualize me sharing my gifts with them, and hopefully inspiring a few, then my
That
job is my job.
exactly.
So techniques are like that. Now, in terms of trust energy, I always say this: you, what is trust? In my book, I'll be talking about 4 points, and I can touch upon that I'll be touching upon that a little bit in Mexico at the retreat when I'm doing the workshop. We talk about character. Character is a very important piece of earning trust. Trust has to be earned.
Mhm.
How can you earn trust if people see you as weak? Ah, nobody will trust you if you're weak.
Mhm.
So character has to be well rounded, has to be optimal, not too strong, not too weak, right optimality.
Mhm.
Balance is important. So character is very important. That means integrity, all of those things that come with character. Also showing compassion, collaboration, win-win attitude, all that is the thing. Anger and fear, nobody will appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
So that's character. Then you have to be competent. With HSA, we are competent people.
Mhm.
We've been licensed, we've been trained, we've got a certificate. At the end of this, we graduate.
Mhm.
It's so valuable. So you take that, or whatever profession you are in, you're competent. Or even as a mother, even as a wife, even as a sister, brother, you're competent. You show your
Mhm.
competence, then people trust you. Then you got to be consistent. Oh my God, you can't do it once, one and done. There's no one and done. You should
Exactly.
always reflect this.
Mhm.
Consistently, you got to reflect this. So then the fourth piece, which is very important, is very little self talk. That is about your own self. Tooting your horns that I am a big shot. That doesn't work.
Mhm.
But the minute people are very self absorbed, it doesn't allow trust to foster. So these are the 4 things that are required for trust. Self love is the starting point for trust energy. Your energy, I talk about energy being balanced in order
Mhm.
to invoke trust. And this is something that we know. Dose is something that we talk about: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Now, a little known fact in the business world is that the same hormone that Tal talks about, which is oxytocin, which is the love hormone,
Yeah.
is the hormone that drives trust. So we are all big boys and girls. We cannot make love when we are in fear. Okay.
Mhm.
We can only exude love when we are not in fear, when we are not angry, when our energies are one of compassion, one of love, and one of collaboration, synthesis. That's when that hormone gets triggered in the body. If you go back to Adam and Eve, the reason they were a couple is because they both exuded dopamine and sorry, oxytocin. That
Yeah.
oxytocin is what brought them together. Now, in business, it is exactly the same thing. So a lot of people they say, I'm stressed out because I got to get this deal. I say, you're not going to get the deal if you approach it that way.
Mm.
The only reason you'll get the deal is if you're magnetic.
Yeah.
And that magnetism exudes trust energy. Wow. The minute they understand that getting business is a question of composing the chemicals in your body,
Hmm.
it's a question of getting your parasympathetic nervous system activated and downing the overreaction of the amygdala, opening the prefrontal cortex. Oh my God, now what are you talking about? You're talking science. It's science that leads to better business. You want to sell more? Activate your prefrontal cortex. Bring
Hmm.
down your cortisol. Raise your dopamine. Raise your serotonin. Raise your endorphins.
Be happy, right?
Raise your
Happy.
exactly and raise your oxytocin. And you're
Yeah.
a magnet for business. So that is how that trust energy works. Hopefully, I
Perfect.
answered your question.
Yeah. And what personal experiences or challenges have most shaped your approach to coaching and well-being?
Ooh, that is a very deep question, my friend. But the short answer is this: personal experiences. I grew up in India. That's where I was born and raised. We did not have too much of money in the family. We were very, money was very tight. Uh, you could say a little bit of,
Hmm.
not have. We were amongst the not did not have the category of people at that time. Although we had our, just enough to get by and feed and stay alive and get some nutrition and all that. But my parents instilled good morals, and they said that's going to be your ticket to success. They also instilled, my grandparents, same thing. They were tough, they were loving.
Hmm.
So I knew where my boundaries were. I tried to push my boundaries a lot. I used to get into a lot of trouble as well as a teenager and as a thing. But I would always come back because I loved my parents, I loved my family and all that. I would not go overboard. And I was always until one of my teachers, similar to Dal, I got involved in sports and I started concentrating on my studies. I became less disruptive at school. I became this. So personal experiences guided me a lot in shaping the thing. And I was not considered a bright kid in my younger days. In fact, people would say, yeah, Venki is not that bright. Poor guy. Other kids, my cousins and all were considered the brighter kids in the family.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I was the duller kid. Slightly okay, Venki's okay, but I'll run around and do all the work, going to the market, getting some vegetables, helping my grandmother out, helping my mom out, something, going to the ration shop and bringing, because I wanted to be strong all the time. So I would carry all the big bags and all that, carry all the weight, including the neighbors' bags and all. So I would get a good name. Oh, Venki is a good kid, but he won't go too far, but he's a good kid, that way. So along the way, I noticed that being a good person was actually an asset, but I had to become smart too because I could see that I was being shortchanged.
Hmm.
So I developed that thing, and suddenly, when I was in just about in high school, I said I got to take charge of my life here, and I started becoming very serious about academics. And then I became right in the front of the class. I was finishing at the top of the class. Then I became good in studies. I was considered, suddenly at university, they considered me brilliant. I don't know why. Same guy, just thing. Because I was very involved in sports and I was very involved in things. So all the energy was getting burnt out. So I can go on and on, but that's the crux of that. So for me, in fact, I remember when I was doing a major exam,
Mm-hmm.
you know, CA exam and final, and I was falling asleep around 11:30, 12 o'clock, and I had to. I said I'm going to sleep at midnight, but this was one of the toughest papers that we and most people would fail that particular paper, and so I was against my best judgment. I was still studying at 12, right? Um, and then I said, "Oh my God, I'm falling asleep." So what do I do? My friends would light up a cigarette, and in those days, smoking a
Yeah,
cigarette.
yeah,
I said, "No, no, no cigarette. I'm going to do push-ups," and I went and did push-ups.
yeah.
And my friends were laughing at me when I was doing push-ups. But the push-ups would invigorate me, and then I could focus. I could
Mm-hmm.
see the connection. So then, when I became, later in my life, even today, just before I this thing, about because I had a client and we had some logistical things, but just before that, I went for a 10-minute walk outside and came back because I knew we had this interview coming up. So those are the experiences, personal experiences that have shaped my life right through, and they continue to shape my life even today.
That's wonderful, Venki. That's wonderful. And now we are at the end of our interview, and I have one more question for you. What lasting impact do you hope to create with your work as well-being and happiness coach?
My mission in my life is to kindle the human spirit with the use of the science of positive psychology and happiness studies. Every encounter I have with another human being, or with an animal, or living being, or anything, I want to spread that energy. My hope is that I magnetize people, and I hope people when they when I leave the people say, "Oh, this guy, he created some good impact." That's it. That's all is the mission.
Well, it's why in the beginning I said he has a magnetic personality that shines because it's what you leave, when we meet you. Then thank you.
Purposeful energy and resilience coaching. That's the
Huh?
concept. Purposeful energy,
Purpose.
purposeful energy and resilience coaching.
Oh, perfect. Perk. That's
Mission.
amazing. That's your mission. Benki, it's been a pleasure to have you in the Entre Nos, and thank you very